The palace of Queen Selara had always seemed untouchable, a fortress of shining spires and glimmering walls that stretched into the alien sky. Its towers shimmered with energy fields, and hovering platforms carried guards who were trained from birth to protect their sovereign. But that morning, the air was heavy with a tension that even the most loyal of Selara's guards could not ignore. Rumors of rebellion had been whispered for months, but no one had imagined the scale of betrayal that was about to unfold. Human soldier, Ethan had never thought he would stand in the heart of an alien palace, facing beings whose strength and technology seemed beyond comprehension. Yet here he was, a lone figure among the chaos, watching as the elite guards of the queen, creatures he had been told were fearless, suddenly faltered. The sounds of alarm bells and the sharp hum of energy weapons filled the corridors, echoing through the vast halls like thunder. The guards, armored in silver and blue, began to scatter. Some ran for safety, others simply froze in fear, their confidence shattered. Ethan's heart pounded as he realized what was happening. The queen was completely exposed. From a distance, Selara's figure appeared, regal and composed even amid the chaos, though her eyes flickered with a mixture of anger and disbelief. She moved swiftly, her long cloak trailing behind her, but without her guards she was vulnerable. Ethan did not hesitate. Years of military training and a deep sense of duty drove him forward. He sprinted across the polished floors, dodging fallen guards and shards of glass from the palace's shattered defense systems. A blast of energy shot past him, scorching the wall near his shoulder. Instinctively, he leapt and grabbed Selara, pressing his body between her and the oncoming projectile. The impact threw them both backward, and Ethan felt the sting of burns and bruises across his chest. But he did not release her. He would not allow harm to come to her while he still drew breath. Selara, momentarily stunned by the human's audacity, blinked at him. Her species had never seen such courage from someone so small, so fragile by their standards. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling not with fear but with confusion. Her hands brushed against his armor as if she needed to confirm he was real and not some illusion conjured by the panic of the moment. "My name is Ethan," he replied simply, keeping his eyes on the advancing rebels. "I will protect you." Selara's lips parted slightly, and for a moment she did not speak. The palace had been built on millennia of discipline and loyalty, yet here was a human, a creature she had been taught to underestimate, shielding her without hesitation. They ducked into a side corridor, narrowly avoiding a second blast that tore a hole in the wall behind them. The air was thick with smoke and the metallic scent of ionized energy. The rebellion had erupted faster than anyone could contain it, and it was clear that the Queen's own advisors were overwhelmed. Ethan led Selara into a small chamber, slamming a reinforced door behind them. He pressed his back against it, scanning through a viewport at the approaching chaos. Selara's eyes widened as she observed the corridor. They are supposed to defend me," she said, disbelief lacing her tone. Her hands clenched the edge of a console and she turned to look at Ethan. Why are you protecting me?" Ethan did not answer immediately. His breathing was steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Because it is the right thing to do," he said finally. "No one deserves to die while I can stop it, especially you." The Queen's gaze softened for a fraction of a second, though she quickly masked it with her usual composure. Selara had never encountered someone whose sense of honor and duty was so absolute. Her guards had abandoned her, her trusted advisors had panicked. But this human, this stranger, stood firm when everyone else fled. As they caught their breath, Ethan examined the chamber. It was a storage room of sorts, filled with relics of past rulers and dormant defense mechanisms. The walls were etched with symbols of authority and protection. He realized that the palace, though technologically advanced, had weaknesses that a single clever mind could exploit. He began to formulate a plan, not just to protect the Queen for the moment, but to survive the rebellion that now threatened to consume them both. Selara moved closer to him, her long fingers brushing against the edge of his armor as if testing its strength. You risk your life for me, a ruler of another world, a species you barely know. Why? She asked, her voice a whisper. Ethan looked at her with steady eyes. Because no one should face death alone, and because you are worth protecting. A moment of silence passed. Outside the chamber, the sounds of chaos continued. The distant shouts of rebels, the hum of failing energy shields, and the occasional explosion that shook the palace's foundations. Yet within the small room there was a strange calm, a bubble of focus amidst the storm. Then the door rattled. The rebels had found them. Ethan moved quickly, positioning himself in front of Selara. "Stay behind me," he said, drawing a small weapon he had acquired from a fallen guard. The weapon hummed with alien energy, but he handled it with surprising ease. He had learned quickly, adapting to technology that was completely foreign to him. The first rebel appeared at the doorway, a towering figure with energy blades crackling in both hands. Ethan reacted instinctively, rolling forward and firing the weapon. A bright pulse struck the intruder, throwing him backward with a grunt of pain. Selara gasped, not just at the violence but at the precision and bravery with which the human fought. "Impressive," she murmured. "Most of my guards would have been." Her words trailed off as another rebel emerged. This time, Ethan used the environment to his advantage, kicking over a console that sparked and exploded, forcing the enemy to duck for cover. Each action was calculated, precise, and fearless. Minutes stretched like hours as they moved deeper into the palace. Ethan protected Selara from every threat, his body a living shield. He adapted to the alien architecture, using walls, gravity lifts, and energy barriers to keep the queen safe. Selara's admiration grew with every step. She had known humans were clever, but she had never imagined one who could combine intelligence with such raw courage. Finally, they reached a hallway that led to a hidden section of the palace, a place even some of Selara's own advisors had never entered. The walls here were lined with dormant security systems, ancient defenses designed for emergencies. Ethan paused, studying the layout. He realized that if they could activate some of these systems, they might stand a chance against the overwhelming forces of the rebels. Selara followed his gaze. "Do you know what you are doing?" she asked, a trace of doubt in her voice. "I can handle this," Ethan said simply. "But I need you to trust me." She hesitated, then nodded. In that moment, a bond began to form, not one of romance or loyalty to a leader, but a mutual respect forged in the fires of survival. Ethan, a human from a distant world, and Selara, the alien queen, found themselves allied not by politics or duty, but by the sheer necessity of courage and trust. A distant explosion shook the palace, and dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan gritted his teeth, tightening his grip on his weapon. "We have to keep moving, they won't stop." Selara's eyes blazed with determination. "Then we will fight together." And so, with the elite guards fled, the palace in chaos and death lurking around every corner, Ethan continued to shield the queen with his body. Every step forward was a battle. Every breath was a risk. But he did not falter. For in the heart of the alien palace, a single human soldier was proving that courage could outshine even the most formidable forces, and that sometimes the smallest beings could make the greatest difference. The palace corridors stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of polished metal and glowing panels, each step echoing in the empty halls that once thrummed with life. Outside, the rebellion continued to surge through the palace like a storm of fire and steel. Ethan moved carefully, holding his weapon ready and keeping Selara close behind him. Every corner could hide an enemy. Every sound could be a warning of death. Yet he did not waver. Selara followed him, her steps measured but filled with a growing sense of determination. She had always been trained to lead, to command, but the chaos had stripped her of the illusion of control. Seeing Ethan fight, not as a soldier following orders but as a being who risked everything for another, stirred something unfamiliar inside her. It was not fear, nor was it simple admiration. It was a recognition of strength, raw and undeniable. As they moved deeper into the palace, Ethan noticed the rebels' movements becoming more coordinated. They had split into squads, using tactics that indicated some of them had knowledge of the palace layout. He realized they were not just fighting blindly, they were hunting. Selara, seeing the grim expression on his face, asked quietly, "What are you thinking?" "We have to outsmart them," Ethan replied. "We can't just fight, we need to use the palace itself." He led her to a control room, a space filled with holographic displays and panels covered in alien script. Ethan quickly scanned the system, his human mind rapidly learning patterns that had taken the aliens years to master. He pressed a few buttons, activated some energy barriers, and rerouted the security drones that were still operational. The palace's defenses were old, partially deactivated, but with his quick thinking, they could become powerful allies. Selara watched him work, her eyes widening. "You adapt faster than any of my people ever could," she said. "It is remarkable." Ethan glanced at her. "We need to move fast. They will figure out what I am doing." The first group of rebels arrived just as Ethan activated the defense drones. The machines whirred to life, zipping along the corridors, firing non-lethal energy nets that captured the intruders. The rebels stumbled back, caught off guard. Ethan pushed Selara behind a panel, shielding her with his body as a pulse of energy flew past them. "You're amazing," Selara whispered, a mixture of awe and disbelief in her voice. "I'm just trying to keep you alive," Ethan replied. His eyes never left the corridor. Every movement, every calculation, was about survival. They continued through the corridors, using the palace's labyrinthine design to their advantage. Ethan set traps, rigged doors to lock and open at precise moments, and guided Selara through hidden passages that she had never even noticed in her years as queen. The human's ingenuity was astounding. He turned the palace itself into a weapon, using strategy rather than brute force to fight an enemy that outnumbered them many times over. At one point, they reached a gravity lift that could take them to the upper levels of the palace. The lift was damaged, barely functioning, but Ethan figured out how to stabilize it. He helped Selara aboard, holding her steady as the lift ascended. The rebels were below, still struggling against the drones and traps that Ethan had set, but they were relentless. When the lift reached the top, they emerged onto a balcony overlooking the city. The streets below were in chaos. Ships had been destroyed, explosions lit up the alien sky, and fires burned across the palace plaza. Selara took in the scene, her face hardening with resolve. "This is our world," she said, "and they are trying to take it from me." Ethan nodded. "Then we take it back." They descended into another wing of the palace where the archives of Selara's ancestors were kept. Here were the relics, the tools, and the knowledge that had allowed the palace to remain unbreachable for centuries. Ethan's eyes scanned the room, recognizing patterns, connections, and ways to use the environment to their advantage. He directed Selara to pull certain levers and activate dormant energy fields. Each action required precision, timing, and trust. Selara hesitated at first, but then she moved with confidence. She began to understand the human's mind, his way of seeing solutions where others saw only danger. Together, they activated a series of defenses that funneled the rebels into specific corridors, slowing their advance and giving Ethan a chance to engage them one by one. As the rebels pressed closer, a squad of elite fighters emerged, their armor gleaming and energy weapons charged. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself between Selara and the enemy. The first fighter lunged, but Ethan dodged with incredible speed, using the environment to trip and disarm him. Another came at them from the side, and Ethan swung a metal rod, knocking the attacker back into a wall with a thud. Solara watched, her heart pounding. She had never seen a human fight like this. Every move was calculated, fearless, and effective. One of the rebels activated a high-powered energy cannon, aiming directly at Solara. Without hesitation, Ethan pushed her to the ground and took the full force of the blast himself. Pain shot through his body, but he held his position, shielding the queen. Solara's eyes filled with fear and shock, and for the first time, she felt the vulnerability of being human in a fight against such ferocity. Ethan struggled to his feet, blood staining his armor, but he did not relent. He engaged the rebel squad with renewed intensity, using every skill, every trick, every ounce of his training to protect Solara. She watched him fight, feeling a strange warmth in her chest, a mix of admiration, gratitude, and something she could not yet name. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the elite squad was defeated. The rebels that remained were disorganized, their morale shattered by the unexpected resistance and the humans' relentless courage. Ethan collapsed against a wall, breathing heavily, but he smiled at Solara. "We're not done yet," he said. Solara approached him, her hand brushing against his arm. "You've done more than I ever imagined a human could," she said softly. "You've given me hope when all others have fled." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't do it for hope. I did it because it's right. Because no one deserves to die when I can stop it." The queen looked at him, seeing not just a soldier, but a being of incredible strength and unwavering moral courage. She realized that humans, though small and fragile compared to her own species, possessed something her people often lacked: the willingness to face impossible odds with determination and honor. As they moved deeper into the palace to confront the remaining rebels, Solara began to rely on Ethan's judgment, following his lead in ways she had never allowed anyone to before. His strategies, his courage, and his humanity became a shield not just for her body, but for her spirit. They reached the throne room, the heart of the palace, where the rebel leader awaited. The room had been ransacked and the walls bore scorch marks from countless energy blasts. The leader, a towering figure with glowing armor, sneered at them. "You are trapped," he said, his voice echoing across the shattered hall. "There is no escape." Ethan stepped forward, placing himself firmly between Solara and the enemy. "I'm not running," he said simply, "and I'm not letting you touch her." The rebel leader laughed, but Ethan's unwavering gaze met his own. In that moment, the leader sensed something he had not expected: a human courage that refused to bend, a will that refused to break. The battle that followed was fierce, with Ethan using both his skill and the palace's environment to gain an advantage. He dodged, blocked, and struck with precision, each movement designed to protect Solara and wear down the enemy. Solara, inspired by Ethan's bravery, joined the fight in her own way, using her powers to manipulate energy barriers and redirect attacks. Together, human and alien queen became an unstoppable force, a perfect blend of ingenuity, courage, and raw power. When the battle finally ended, the rebels lay defeated, their forces scattered. Solara stood beside Ethan, her eyes filled with a mixture of exhaustion and admiration. She realized that without him, she would have fallen. And in that moment, she understood something she had never admitted before. Humans, though small and fragile, could possess a strength that rivaled even the mightiest of alien warriors. Ethan, bleeding and bruised, smiled weakly. "We did it," he said. "You're safe for now." Solara nodded, a new respect shining in her eyes. "You have saved more than just my life," she said. "You have shown me that courage and loyalty can come from the most unexpected places." And as they looked out over the palace, seeing the fires begin to die down and the city slowly regain a semblance of order, Solara knew that this human soldier had not only protected her body, but had changed the course of her life forever. The palace had been a place of fear and chaos for hours, yet now, with the remaining rebels scattered, the heart of the fortress seemed almost calm. The fires still burned in parts of the city below, and smoke curled up into the alien sky, but inside the palace, there was a brief moment of quiet. Ethan leaned against a wall, his armor battered and scorched, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Solara stood beside him, her cloak torn but her posture regal, her eyes scanning the room as if the weight of what had happened was still settling in. "We have to secure the palace completely," Ethan said, wincing as he adjusted the strap of his weapon. "There may still be others hiding. We can't assume it's over." Solara nodded. She had seen the human's determination, his ability to think and adapt even under unimaginable pressure. In those hours, he had done what her elite guards could not. He had protected her when all others fled. "Lead the way," she said. "I will follow your judgment." Ethan felt a flicker of surprise at her words. Solara, queen of her people, trusted him, an outsider, a human, with her life and the safety of her palace. He pushed the thought aside and began moving through the corridors again, alert and ready. Solara stayed close, her hand occasionally brushing against his armor as they passed damaged doors and shattered panels. As they moved through the halls, they found groups of rebels who had hidden themselves in storage rooms and maintenance corridors. Ethan coordinated with Solara, using both his quick thinking and her knowledge of the palace to trap and capture the intruders. He improvised barricades, rerouted power to lock doors, and guided the queen through paths that minimized danger. Solara began to understand the human's strength. He did not rely on brute force alone. He used intelligence, courage, and strategy, a combination her own soldiers often lacked. At one point, a heavily armed squad cornered them in a long corridor. The rebels opened fire, energy beams slicing through the walls with sparks and smoke. Ethan pushed Solara behind a metal pillar and returned fire with precise bursts from his weapon, targeting weak points in their armor. He moved with an agility that surprised even Solara, ducking under blasts and using the environment to his advantage. One of the rebels charged directly at Solara, energy blade raised high. Ethan didn't hesitate. He threw himself in front of her, catching the attack on his armor and sending the attacker flying backward. Solara gasped, seeing the human risk his life once more. The scene repeated itself several times, Ethan absorbing blows meant for the queen, standing firm when others would have faltered. By the time they reached the throne room again, the final confrontation with the rebel leader awaited them. The room was battered, walls scorched and debris scattered across the floor. The leader, a towering alien with glowing eyes and jagged armor, sneered at them. "You cannot defeat me," he said, his voice echoing with menace. "The palace belongs to the strong. And I am stronger than any human." Ethan didn't flinch. He stepped forward, placing himself between Solara and the leader. "Strength isn't only about size or weapons," he said. "It's about courage, determination, and knowing what's right." Solara felt a surge of respect for him. He had faced impossible odds, and yet he spoke with a calmness that made the leader hesitate. Humans were unpredictable, and this one in particular seemed immune to fear. The rebel leader charged, swinging his massive energy blade. Ethan dodged, rolled, and countered with a quick strike, exploiting a weakness in the alien's armor he had observed during their previous encounters. He fought with skill and intelligence, keeping Solara safe while wearing down the enemy. Solara, inspired by Ethan's courage, began to use her powers in tandem with his strategy, manipulating the palace's energy systems to create barriers and redirect attacks. The battle raged through the throne room, each movement a deadly dance. Ethan shielded Solara from every strike, his body taking blows that would have incapacitated an ordinary soldier. He adapted to every move, every strategy of the rebel leader, never faltering. Solara, observing his ingenuity and bravery, realized that humans, though small and seemingly fragile, could possess a strength beyond that of even the most elite alien warriors. Finally, With a coordinated effort, Ethan and Selara cornered the leader. Using a combination of human tactics and alien technology, they neutralized his energy weapon and pinned him down. The remaining rebels, seeing their leader defeated and their forces disorganized, surrendered or fled into the city. Selara stepped forward, her eyes locking onto Ethan S. "You have done what my own guards could not," she said, her voice filled with awe and gratitude. "You have protected me, saved my people, and restored order to my palace. I cannot express how much this means." Ethan, exhausted and wounded, shook his head. "I didn't do it for praise," he said. "I did it because it was right, because no one deserves to die when I can stop it." The Queen studied him for a moment, then nodded. She realized that his actions were a reflection of something her species had overlooked for centuries. Humans could be brave, resourceful, and selfless in ways that transcended size, species, and technology. His courage had saved her, her palace, and her people. Word of their victory spread quickly through the palace. Selara's guards, who had fled in fear, returned to witness the aftermath. They saw the Queen alive, standing beside a human soldier whose bravery had turned the tide of the rebellion. Their expressions shifted from doubt to awe, recognizing that the small human had accomplished what they could not. Ethan, weary but resolute, helped Selara stand taller before her people. She addressed the assembly, her voice carrying authority and pride. "This human," she said, gesturing to Ethan, "has shown courage beyond measure. He has protected me when my own guards could not. He has proven that strength is not only measured in size or power, but in determination, honor, and the will to do what is right." The assembly erupted in murmurs and whispers, many approaching Ethan to offer respect and gratitude. He felt a mix of humility and disbelief at the recognition he was receiving. He had not sought fame or glory. He had only acted to protect someone who could not protect herself. Yet his actions had inspired not only the Queen but her people, showing that humans could be more than outsiders, they could be heroes. In the days that followed, the palace was restored. Ethan worked alongside Selara to rebuild defenses and train a new generation of soldiers, blending human strategy with alien technology. The Queen, once skeptical of humanity, now held a deep respect for the species, particularly for the human who had risked everything to shield her. Selara often observed Ethan quietly, noting his resilience, his quick thinking, and his unwavering sense of duty. She realized that humans were capable of incredible feats, not because of superior strength, but because of a combination of courage, ingenuity, and moral conviction. Ethan had proven that in the face of overwhelming odds, a single human could change the course of history. One evening, as they stood together on the palace balcony overlooking the city, Selara spoke softly. "You have saved more than my life, Ethan. You have shown my people and me that courage knows no boundaries, that even the smallest among us can stand against the mightiest." Ethan looked out over the city, the smoke from recent battles rising like a reminder of their struggle. "I just did what I had to do," he said. "I couldn't let anyone die if I could stop it, and I couldn't leave you to face them alone." Selara turned to him, her eyes reflecting the light of the twin moons above. "You are more than a soldier. You are a legend among my people, and more importantly, you have my trust, my respect, and my gratitude forever." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest that he had never experienced before. It was not glory or reward, but a recognition of something deeper, a bond forged in courage, trust, and the shared struggle against impossible odds. He realized that his journey as a human soldier in an alien world had changed him as much as it had changed the Queen. As the night settled over the palace, the fires of rebellion smoldered in the distance, a reminder of the chaos they had survived. Yet within the fortress walls there was peace, hard-won and sacred. Selara's people would rebuild, stronger and wiser, inspired by the bravery of a human who had refused to yield. Ethan, standing beside her, knew that he had not only protected a queen but had proven the potential of his own kind. Humans were often underestimated, seen as fragile and weak by those who did not understand them. Yet in moments of crisis, courage, intelligence, and determination could surpass any physical or technological advantage. The palace was safe, the queen was alive, and humanity, through the actions of a single soldier, had earned a place in the heart of a world that had once doubted them. Ethan's story would be told for generations, not as a tale of conquest or violence, but as a testament to the strength of character, the power of courage, and the truth that sometimes the smallest among us can change the fate of the universe. Solara placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, her eyes filled with unspoken gratitude. "You have given me more than life," she said quietly. "You have given me hope." Ethan nodded, a weary but satisfied smile on his face. "Then I've done my job," he said simply. And in that moment, the palace, once a place of fear and betrayal, became a symbol of trust, courage, and the extraordinary power of one human's will to protect and endure.